Hey there guys, what's going on? So it's time for yet another review from the deep recesses of this giant melon head here, especially since it seems as though there's just enough time to talk about 2 new musical topics before 4.5 billion more pop up to replace them, which just goes to show you, seasonal affective disorder and the onset of darker fall days just seem to make musicians stronger. Live in fear, folks. Live in fear. Anyway, we're here to talk about something that's really cool. And other than that, of course, being the point of why you're here, at least I would hope, this video is yet another unexpected collaboration that I really didn't expect to be featuring here on my channel. Much like the Weezer album review I put out not too long ago, except this contains less worrying and hair-pulling over lack of quality, and more about the obvious astounding quality of 2 musicians coming out of left field to do a project together. AKA, that's the kind of sudden announcement that I like to hear. Today we have 2 artists who inhabit separate sides of the musical tracks, yet possess similar qualities and aspects of their work that make their coming together quite natural. Both have been quite successful in their respective career arcs, and each has shown themselves to be quite versatile and sound given the nature of their evident talent. And I think that feeling would certainly be at its most evident with today's release, but that of course will be up to you. In this one we have Alicia Moore, aka Pop Music's Pink, coming together with Dallas Green, aka City in Color, Alexis on Fire, etc, uniting as the simply titled You+Me for a debut called Rose Avenue, or Rose Ave, I suppose, take your pick. This one strips away most any layers or studio trickery to reveal a set of songs that are often at their most bare, and certainly their most honest. Will it turn out across the length of an entire studio record? Well, my friends, that is something we must find out together within the review. There are those times in music and on records where chemistry can only seem to truly come about after a band has put its nose to the grindstone for a few decades, or across the span of a few studio albums and a few lineup changes to go along with it. And that's just how that goes. But luckily for those of us who eat up music with as big of a ginormous spoon as possible, there are the artist collaborations that just seem to click like puzzle pieces from the first verse. And when it comes to Rose Avenue, the duo of Alicia Moore and Dallas Green quite authentically fit the bill. From the opening boom clap of Capsized to the stunning piano-led cover of Sade's No Ordinary Love, in which Green's angelic falsetto brings to mind recent soul powerhouse Sam Smith, the 2 just seem to flow together like peanut butter and jelly, for lack of a more powerful and less sandwich-themed analogy. And it doesn't require massive production to do it, as the sound of Rose Avenue only sparingly adds strings or elements to buoy along that country folk fusion. Most of the time the acoustic guitar takes center stage, and it sounds flawless doing so. In fact, the brightest moments are when the record sounds like it's just basically Green and Moore clustered around that very guitar, trading and harmonizing on lines and verses, as with Second Guess, and they manage to keep it bright and interesting. Often the hardest parts of records that stay in such a stripped-down setting are maintaining attention without lagging under the weight of quiet. Take Philip Selway's recent solo effort, for example. As sweet and as pretty as it is to play guitar in a room with your friends, there has to be that spark to keep that vibe and the intimacy from growing stale. Thankfully, You+Me never seems to encounter this problem because, well, where do I honestly begin? Firstly, they each possess the vocal chops to not only dance with each other in this ethereal tango of sorts, but as I said prior, they make it seem so natural. Like they've been practicing this blend of modern pop with retro folk and country touches for years. Not to mention probably exposing some very differently genred fans to a pedal steel guitar for the first time. And that bit aside, Rose Ave is also a really well-written album to boot. It's not exactly going to set the world on fire in that regard, but it doesn't necessarily have to either. As road-weary as it is lovelorn, this record fuses a very definable singer-songwriter quality that gets its words across in a way that never ceases to be heart-wrenching or relatable. Some fans might automatically attribute that to Green's City in Color background, but Moore has never exactly been one to automatically dismiss in her songwriting career either. In fact, if there's one very definable statement of fact I'd take away from You+Me and Rose Avenue, it's the versatility of Alicia Moore and just how utterly impressive she happens to be. She's shown the ability to craft pop hits and radio singles the world over as Pink, but has never shied away from showing a taste for the stripped down either. You+Me just brought out what was always there in the first place, and with Dallas Green's undeniable ability in tow, I think it's fantastic that she wants to keep making interesting music that has a real flavor to it. Most people in the pop world ought to take this as an example. I'm looking at you, Adam Levine. My favorites from this one are those aforementioned songs, as well as the gorgeous folky gold of Unbeliever, the silky bluesy strut of Love Gone Wrong, and the 70s AM country feel with modern flavor of Open Door. Dallas Green and Alicia Moore have certainly come a long way in their respective career paths, and each has made a name for themselves that their fans seem to have a great level of respect for. So instead of wishing for one over the other, or wishing this was someone's record over someone else's, why not take the insanely gorgeous blending of both? Rose Avenue might fly under a lot of radars this year despite the names involved in it, but you really would be sadly missing out if you chose not to give this one a few spins. It's a grower, and right near the top on my list for the best of 2014. I give it an 8.8 out of 10. But that's it, and that's all for me here, guys, with my review for You+Me with Rose Avenue, aka the collaboration between Alicia Moore, aka Pink, and Dallas Green, aka City and Color, etc., etc. There are too many AKAs and etceteras, and I'm putting a ban on all three-letter words ending with a little dot at the end of them after this particular video, I think. AKA doesn't have one, but that's a different story. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Point being, I hope you enjoyed this particular review. It was a lot of fun to do something that I certainly didn't expect to be doing, something that was a little more out of left field perhaps, but a little bit more in my wheelhouse on that note, I suppose. And I hope that you all enjoyed it. Definitely go and check this record out. It is available on iTunes and Amazon and all that. The vinyl is a little bit harder to find. It's apparently sold out and all of that, but you can still get it digitally in a variety of formats. And definitely keep an eye on what they do, because I think that's a really, really awesome collaboration. And I think I'm going to go watch some YouTube videos of it right now. So, again, I hope you enjoyed this. Keep it here for a lot more coming soon, and stay tuned.